Right, we're a minute past. We'll let others flow in as their Outlook notifications go off, but I think we can probably get started. So for those not familiar, this is kind of a new format to us. The idea is to get deep on a particular topic, and we've got Adam, who's kindly going to host this one, who was my absolute first choice for trying to decode Dynamics 365 Contact Center from an MVP and external expert point of view. So Adam, if it's all right, I'll hand over to you to introduce Marcus and Taimoor and take it away.
Absolutely. So welcome, everybody. Adam Ball here. As Tom said, I'm Microsoft MVP, and I'm really pleased to have the ability to lead this conversation with Marcus and Taimoor. So with that, I'm actually just going to ask them to go ahead and introduce themselves and who they are, what their role is, and go from there. And then we'll jump into some foundational aspects on Dynamics 365 Contact Center. So Marcus, I'll hand it over to you to kick off, and then we'll go over to Taimoor.
Okay, sounds good. My name is Marcus Schmidt. I'm a principal program manager on the Dynamics 365 product team. Work on both contact center as well as our customer service product, and we'll get into how those two are related here in a little bit. I'm on the growth team specifically, so my responsibility covers the entire spectrum of the product and how we end up growing it over time and meeting the needs of our customers and our partners. Taimoor.
Cool. Hi, everyone. I'm Taimoor. Hopefully, I'm not new to most of this community or most of Tom's community. I've been on some things with Tom before. I've been working on our telco strategy on M365 for a while now, which includes Teams, Copilot, some of the go-to-market stuff there, a bunch of different, obviously, phone stuff, but also been working on Dynamics Contact Center, pretty close to home there as well. So looking forward to meeting the community and, hopefully, I know there's a couple of different angles where this conversation is coming from. Adam mentioned earlier that, hey, we've got a phone background, and I'd say I've got a 25-year communications background. So I'm ex-Cisco, and used to do UC and CCX there, and been at Microsoft for a while as well. I will just make a quick plug as well. We're joined by some other distinguished Microsoft colleagues who will be helping out in the chat. So we have Pratici. I think Chris is going to take a few questions as well. So, it definitely takes a team. So we're all here to help support, ask questions, and go as we go.
Absolutely. Thanks, Taimoor. And definitely want to make sure people know, throw questions into the chat as we go along. We do, as Taimoor said, we have folks that are going to answer questions there. And if there's anything that needs to be highlighted, I'll bring that back into the conversation as well from that standpoint. So with that, Marcus, I'm going to toss this to you for the first question, so you get to go on the hot seat first. So really, where did Dynamics 365 Contact Center come from? I think there's a lot of confusion around that of where is this coming from? So I'll just let you jump in.
Yeah, I think on one hand, it caught a bunch of people by surprise, and on another hand, it didn't. So we officially announced Dynamics 365 Contact Center about 2 years ago at the CCW show in Las Vegas. But its history dates back quite a bit further than that. So if you think back in time, rewind your brain a little bit, we had a product, and we still have a product called Dynamics 365 Customer Service. And what we started to do was realize that product, which is focused on case management, knowledge management, those sorts of activities, those customer service applications needed to be connected to the outside world. So we started building these things called omni-channel add-ins, where we'd have an add-in for web chat, or an add-in for SMS, or an add-in for different social channels like Facebook Messenger and whatnot. And on November 2021 at Ignite, actually, we announced our new voice channel, basically having an omni-channel add-in for voice. Now, we never used the words contact center per se, but you basically, if you were looking at the tea leaves, you're realizing, okay, Microsoft's adding in all of these different connected experiences to their customer service product. We were basically building a contact center without calling it a contact center, but it was always very tied to the Dynamics customer service product. And then 2 years ago, based on feedback we got from customers and partners, we realized, okay, it's probably better to have those things decoupled, so you can deploy the Dynamics 365 Contact Center product independently without needing customer service, but still make sure that they work better together. So it's been around for a number of years. It's just sort of, sometimes it seems like it just came new on the block, but it's actually been around for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. And you kind of touched on something that I think gets people confused, right? Just based on the name, where we have dynamics in the name, and it did come from dynamics, as you mentioned. So the question naturally comes up to, do you need dynamics first? If you're a customer and you're thinking about this, do you need dynamics within your environment? So I'll let you take that.
Yeah, it's an excellent question because just by virtue of the fact that Dynamics 365 is our business application brand, right? The contact center fits under that brand architecture, but you don't need any other part of Dynamics to get started, right? You can just get started with Dynamics 365 Contact Center as its own standalone thing, but obviously it'll work better with if you have some of the other Dynamics pieces in play, then we get into that as we go, but it's not required to have any other part of Dynamics to get started.
Yeah, and I think, and just to kind of comment for folks as we go along, hopefully we're going to be able to dispel a lot of myths today, because I think there are quite a few myths out there around Dynamics 365 Contact Center. So that's our first one of just myth busted of the idea that you have to have Dynamics first off, and so you don't. So that's fantastic. Marcus, you touched on this already of voice got introduced kind of back in 2021 as part of the omni-channel that came in. And so we've got all these voice things. So I'm just going to kind of, Taimoor, I'm going to kind of shift over towards you and ask you a question here. I know that when voice first came into Dynamics 365, it was all based on ACS, but now we're kind of making a pivot towards Teams, which obviously is near and dear to my heart. Can you kind of tell us more about that at this point and what that shift looks like?
Yeah, I wouldn't say like this is new as well. I think we started to introduce sort of Teams integration with Dynamics from a voice channel perspective. I think a couple of years ago, 2024. So I think that one of the things to think about is, this kind of makes a lot of sense for us to bring our Teams telephony platform, or the telephony part of the platform, closer to contact center, right? So contact center, especially Dynamics Contact Center, supports, an omni-channel conversation, right? There's multiple different ways to be able to create that service. And voice, obviously, as we know, probably in this community, as well as Adam yourself, is still probably the most predominant service channel, right? It's the most used, it's the most comfortable, it's the most familiar. And so we want to make sure that we deliver that in the most excellent way. Now, what we've been doing in the past, few years is we've been developing this really robust platform for delivering superior call quality within Teams. So we've got Teams Direct Routing, which has been around since 2018. We then have Operator Connect, which has been around for 5 years. And then we also have, of course, our Microsoft calling plans and so on. And so for us to be able to build that platform and that customer confidence, and of course, we are the #1 cloud telephony provider. And so we've got millions, tens of millions of users using that every day. So it's a pretty mature piece of infrastructure. And so bringing that particular capability into Dynamics Contact Center to deliver the voice channel made total sense. And so that's kind of what we're trying to do, is to focus our voice channel on delivery that we've already built, and so on. So that's kind of where that came from. We were able to bring a lot more quality, a lot more scalability, all the operators that support Operator Connect, all the providers that do direct routing into the Dynamics Contact Center.
Yeah, to me, it seemed like it did exactly that. It simplified and broadened the ability to bring the PSTN in from that perspective. Like ACS has always, even for us Teams guys, has kind of been a little bit of a black box to a certain extent, or a little bit of voodoo. Nobody really understood how it did. There was a lot of metered components within that, and so coming in off of whether it's Operator Connect, direct routing, calling plans, what have you, really does make that more streamlined and straightforward for a customer from my perspective. So that was kind of my take.
Yeah, and the feedback we used to get for ACS is it was just wasn't predictable, right? What am I going to pay for it? How much does it cost? Okay, what's my sort of, this way, you're already leveraging the PSTN networks that you're familiar with.
Right. Yeah, and from that perspective, ACS but is super powerful underneath the hood. But it's one of those things that the coming through Teams just kind of really just made that a very understandable, straightforward model. So I appreciated that. So
just to throw another little tidbit out there. I mean, ACS is also used for our SMS connectivity, and it's used for our WhatsApp connectivity and other kinds of things. So it's a Swiss Army knife, if you will, of different ways of communicating, not just voice. And so it's at the time when we started, it made a lot of sense. It makes even more sense now to make sure we have ACS and Teams is our primary for voice, but it's still something that we need for other communication channels. It's, contact centers are contact centers and not call centers for a reason, because they have all these different channels that people use, but the voice is still, like Taimoor was saying, still one of the primary channels people gravitate towards.
And Marcus, you said something that was really key right there, that I think people, I've heard at least from others that heard this announcement of, hey, ACS is going away because you're going to Teams now, right? It's not that ACS is going away. It's the bringing PSTN into Dynamics 365 Contact Center is shifting to Teams. That's the change, not that ACS is going away. So there's just kind of one of those other myths that we talked about, that people have said. So you commented SMS is still coming through there through ACS. You still have these other connectors that are happening through ACS. Again, ACS is super powerful. We're just going to make that the surface that people interact with it better through the Teams connectivity.
Yeah, and just to add, right, ACS is a CPaaS service, right, that we ran for a long time, and the use case was never for this to sort of live on top of that. And so, we like for our users to use the CPaaS platform to develop applications that require communications capabilities, and that's going to continue. And we don't know, that's for the ACS team to sort of figure out like where that goes and what the future of that looks like. But for us, it made sense for us to voice channel because so much development still going on in the Teams platform, right? And the underlying infrastructure that supports the Teams platform. And so it just made a lot of sense to move our voice channel to prioritize there.
Yeah.
And it was one of the most requested things from our partners and from our customers. They're like, wait a minute, we've already invested all of this time, effort, and energy in building out our Teams voice infrastructure. Why can't we just reuse that in the Dynamics Contact Center? So it was not only does it make sense technically, it makes sense from a market perspective as well.
Yeah. So talking on the platform, like Taimoor used the key word there of platform. And I think that's kind of one of the keys here when we think about Dynamics 365 Contact Center is the platform. So maybe we talk about what are those components that when we think about Dynamics 365 Contact Center, what builds that platform for it? Because we've got omni-channel, we've got, with voice, we've got SMS, we've got chat, we've got email, etc. We've got automation, the AI, all of these components within there. Maybe just talk broadly at this point about the platform. I want to get to some stuff later of forward looking and some of the new features that you guys just dropped a couple weeks ago. But really just kind of talk broadly about the platform itself of what are some of those building blocks that build it.
Yeah, I'll let Marcus start with that. I'll add to the end.
Okay. All right.
Certainly. Yeah. So Dynamics itself is built on Power Platform, which is then in turn built on Azure. So there's an economy of the bigger, broader Microsoft cloud that accrues to the Dynamics 365 Contact Center. So we have all of the worldwide capabilities and all the AI capabilities that Azure represents. We have the low-code, no-code capability of Power Platform, including Copilot Studio, which we use for all of the self-service sorts of customer assist agents, which we'll get into as we go a little bit later. And then Dynamics is built on top of that. So there's a variety of different layers to the cloud that come together and have basically Dynamics 365 Contact Center on top. And now with the Teams capability folded in with voice, that's even another key part of the overall platform story. And there's getting to be more and more with M365 Copilot and everything else. So it's really, that's one of the differentiators. I'm stealing a future answer probably, but one of the reasons why people are looking at Microsoft as a contact center vendor is because of the whole is greater than sum of the parts, right? You've got all these different capabilities that accrue up to the Dynamics Contact Center product.
Taimoor, do you have anything else? As I say, do you want to chime in on that?
Yeah, so I think that one of the things, and this is kind of the same theme that you've heard from us before as well, is I know we're going to talk about this in a little bit more depth, but if you think about AI and what this means to this opportunity, right? Especially in terms of Copilot, which we'll probably digress on later. But the way that you look at unifying sort of this horizontal and vertical integration, bringing dynamics closer to teams, having sort of this Copilot reasoning over the data, not only just enterprise data, but also service data, and trying to surface all of the key things that we do there. So bringing these platforms together is going to, or these services rather, together under one unique umbrella. That's going to be the big key differentiator, right? I mean, I know that there's lots of really great contact center offerings out there in the world, but when we start talking about what is the Microsoft advantage? What is the Dynamics Contact Center advantage? That's where we're going to focus on a lot, is that platform that we're building.
Yeah, and we kind of went from this platform, and I think this is super interesting to me because again, we've talked about other platforms, other solutions. I don't want to call them platforms, but the other solutions. So traditionally, from the team's perspective, so I'll just kind of take the team's voice guy model here, mindset. We've had in the past for third party, we've had the connect, extend, and unify models, right? Now we have a first party solution with Dynamics 365 Contact Center. How does that fit? Like, how does this fit into if I'm sitting here thinking about Dynamics 365 Contact Center and I've been doing teams and I've had these three models in the past, how should I be thinking about this first party solution in terms of that?
Yeah, this is a great question. One of the things that's super interesting about this is when Marcus was talking initially about Dynamics Contact Center kind of being a standalone product, one of the things that we also didn't mention is that Dynamics is standalone not just from Dynamics from a service and CX perspective and CRM perspective, but also from a Teams from a telephony perspective, right? So if you happen to be using a different telephony platform, for example, you can still use Dynamics as your contact center. If you happen to be using a different CRM solution, for example, you can still use Dynamics as your contact center. So the fact that this is sort of an independent solution, that's why we don't really couple it. Now, coming back to your question, if you're using Teams as a telephony solution, which we all hope you are, then there are multiple options for you to kind of go explore for contact center. A lot of those contact center partners have been our partners for over a decade, right? And they have done a lot of innovation, a lot of work to bring their product to meet their customers. Actually, some of the contact center solutions that we partner with have been around for 30 years. And so they've built some really great intelligence into their product. Their routing engines are, have been honed over decades of research, right? And so it really depends on fit for purpose. Who is it going to work for? How many agents do I have to have? What's going to be my cost analysis of running this contact center? What are some important things for me? Am I focusing mainly on an omni-channel or web-based experience, text-based experience? Am I just focusing more on taking customer service calls? It really depends on, use cases, financial implications, integration points, and so on. I will say that one of the things that I find super interesting is, I hear obviously every contact center vendor out there, very credible. They talk about AI. The AI capabilities that a lot of contact center vendors have built are built from a service stack up, right? So it feels a little bit bolted on, right? Which fair, right? These contact center solutions have existed for a long time. Dynamics Contact Center, fortunately, was built in this time of AI. So we didn't bolt the AI onto it. It was kind of infused into the development process of it, right? And then, of course, we have this advantage of, the M365 piece of the Copilot, right? Which basically has all of your enterprise data, all the signals that come through of you as a user. And so there are differences there when you start to think about, what does it mean to have an AI-enabled contact center? Such a overloaded term, but that's, those are some of the things that you have to start to think about.
Yeah, for sure. And it's definitely very interesting. And you touched on something that I wanted to ask of, do you have to have teams to run Dynamics 365 Contact Center? And you kind of touched on that in there if you don't today. But with this shift, so let's just kind of touch on that. So say I don't have teams yet. Maybe I'm not there yet, but I'm prioritizing my shift in contact center first towards Microsoft before I get there. coming from a legacy PBX or a legacy system or another system, doesn't matter. I still am going to go through Teams. I'm still going to light up that Teams connectivity for the phone to come in to the contact center at that point. But then from there, my agents still live just within the contact center, right?
That's correct. Yeah. So you don't necessarily need to use Teams as your telephony platform, meaning your enterprise users don't need to be using Teams. You could be using, I'll take some vendor names, just because they're on the top of my tongue, Cisco or Zoom or whatever for your enterprise users. But then your contact center agents could be sitting behind Dynamics, and their phone connectivity just still come through Teams phone extensibility and direct routing and so on. Those agents still need to be leveraging Teams from an entitlement perspective. But they could kind of sit independently in contact center. Now, obviously, one of the things that we're trying to figure out is we're merging these experiences, right? So agents used to live inside of their agent desktop, right? In a contact center environment. In Dynamics, they can kind of live in Copilot, they can kind of live in Teams, they can kind of live in all of these places and still be able to get all their work done from a service perspective. And so therefore, having this isolated is probably not the best. You probably do want to start to think about, okay, I do want to give them Teams access so that they can do all of the other chat, collab, and Copilot-y things as well. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Can I just pick up on that for a second, Adam? So this is the key point that Taimoor just made about the what we call the service rep experience. Basically, the person who's the human that's responsible for providing customer service, right? And traditionally, they did want this single pane of glass where they had all their customer information, all the case information, they had the conversation, Copilot was there helping them. So we built basically, in essence, a team soft phone that's part of our communication panel that's built into that single pane of glass experience. We call it the Copilot Service Workspace. And that's sort of one end of the spectrum, right? And that's where you have the people whose job it is day in, day out to do customer support. That's typically where they live because they want to have all these things at their fingertips to be able to provide great customer service. Then, as you start to sort of slide the user experience spectrum over a little bit, there could be some people that do customer support that are more casual customer support people. Maybe they live in M365 Copilot or they live in Teams or something like that, where they still need access to some of the data, still be able to do some of these customer support activities, but that's not their main job. So that's another level of that experience. So you can kind of tailor the experience to the person, and depending on how much of their job is day-to-day customer support, you give them the user experience that fits their needs the best.
You just nailed what I was going to ask about, Marcus. So I was going to ask about this because of the fact that from an end user or from a human agent training perspective, how do we handle that, right? So you just nailed that with that slider of, hey, I can take you from, hey, you're right here at the agent level, agent desktop, all the way to, hey, you're working out of Copilot. So I love it from that perspective. Kind of shifting this at this point from this perspective, kind of going from like, we talked about the foundations, we talked about where did it come from and all of these things. I kind of wanted to shift over to like, who does this matter to? And there's kind of different groups here that I want to talk on and why it might matter to them. So first off, let's start with customers. Like, so if I'm an end customer, why does this all matter to me? I mean, obviously I may be thinking about contact center. I may be looking at what do I bring in next? Just from my day-to-day job, what I'm finding as we've moved to the cloud, customers are more willing to reevaluate their needs more frequently these days. Back in the day, I used to do, when we did on-premises deployments, we would see customers who were like, nope, I invested in this platform and I'm on a 5 to 10 year window, right? Like they wouldn't even look at it other than every 5 to 10 years. Now it seems like we're on an every 3 year basis or so, somewhere around that time frame. So what size customers should be considering this? What does it matter to those customers? What should they be thinking about as they go along? I don't know who wants to take that. If Marcus, if you want to think about that.
Yeah, I can start. I'm happy to get Taimoor's perspective as well. Size wise, it's not necessarily about the number of human service reps that you have, right? It's more about metrics related to things like simultaneous call volume and what kind of messaging volume you're going to process and what are the different channels you want to use and all of those things. So this is where ourselves plus our partners come in and help that customer decide, okay, is this the right fit for them? We have some customers that have just a few dozen customer service reps all the way up to thousands upon thousands of customer service reps, right? Microsoft ourselves and our own support organization uses Dynamics to do customer support. So that sort of could give you the bookends of the spectrum in terms of size. It's really more about the use cases and making sure that we're covering the right channels and we can meet the needs of the customers, with what they're trying to pursue. One other little point to throw out here is that almost every organization has a contact center in it. They might not realize they do, but they do, right?
Yeah.
They have to provide support and service to their customers, even if it's B2B or B2C or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But the one use case that I think sometimes gets overlooked is what we call B2E, business to employee use case. Like, we use Dynamics in our contact center to do our own HR support internally. So if I have a question about benefits, or I have a question about some other thing that is HR related, I can log all that, and all that goes through Dynamics. So even if you don't think you have an external contact center, which you probably do, you have an internal contact center because you have employees that need help. So it could be facilities related, could be IT help desk, that kind of stuff.
I think that's a key, because I talk to customers every day about that. Like, whether it's finance, HR, IT, facilities, you just named all of the key ones that I see commonly. I like your term B2E. I might steal that going forward at this point. But
royalty free.
there you go. But I think that's key. Do you think that there's for those folks, because if I'm in finance, I don't necessarily think I'm part of a contact center. Really, the change in mindset is not that it's contact center, it's how are you servicing, and which kind of stems out of the history of Dynamics 365 Contact Center, if it came out of the customer service segment. So how do you change that mindset to a certain extent to think about this of how am I meeting the business needs to take in these requests? That's really the change in mindset. It's what contact center's been doing for a long time, but people just have this aversion to that word contact center.
Yeah, I'll just take a quick swing at that one, and Taimoor can jump in. I think the person on the receiving end of the contact center request, this gets back to that slider in terms of user experience. If I'm in finance, or I'm in HR, or I'm in facilities, I'm probably not going to necessarily log into Dynamics every day to do my job, because I have a bunch of other things I got to do. But maybe I can get that service request routed to me in Teams, or routed to me, or something I can do inside M365 Copilot with CoWork. There's a lot of other surfaces where I can do support of my customers, even if my customers are internal customers. So that's I think where people just need to change the mindset of I'm here to help my employees, I'm here to help my customers, but I don't necessarily have to go into a given app all the time to make that happen.
Yeah, and one more thing, like I think this is what we were talking about earlier, is fit for purpose, right? And kind of this is where, if you're running Teams and you're running Dynamics, this starts to become, the lines start to become blurred. We have this concept of, formal agents, which kind of more would sit on the dynamic side of things. We have sort of semi-formal agents that, Teams and Q's app can service. And then we have informal agents, which is basically everybody, all of us, right? You, me, we're all semi-formal agents. Like, if somebody has a big request and they say, oh, I need to escalate this to the Dynamics product team, or, so they'd pull one of us in over Teams and be like, hey, this is customer has this issue. It's a priority one issue. So I think those lines are a little bit blurred, but if you use the right tools, then you don't have to think about what this workflow might look like, right? As Marcus said, we're trying to solve the problem. We're not trying to figure out how to solve the problem. We just need to get to it, right? And so hopefully, with blurring these lines just a little bit more, making it much easier for agents to sort of figure out who the right person is or where the right knowledge base is with the help of Copilot, that's going to be the going forward, right?
Yeah. I think those are great answers. So as we sit here and think about that, if I'm kind of playing the customer role here for a moment and pinging you guys with questions. So if I'm sitting here as the customer and I'm thinking about, all right, you guys are answering my questions, I can solve these business problems, etc. What is the typical, and this is, I know the consulting answer here because I give it every day of that depends, okay, within this, but I think one of the questions that people commonly come back to is really what's the effort? What's that effort to move towards this? How fast could I get? Like, I got 10 people that are sitting here for facilities that I want to start routing things to, or what have you. How fast can we get that up and going? I think there's some thoughts there that this is, contact centers always this big, massive uplift that takes months and months and months. So curious on your take on that.
Yeah, it depends. No,
Yeah.
just
So, like I said, I knew what answer was coming, but I'd like to get a little bit further into it.
no, yeah, I can give you slightly more detail. So our goal is to make it as fast as possible, right? But you don't want to go so fast that you like do things that are unnaturally disruptive to the business. So you have to make sure you think through the different steps and what you need to do. Somebody asked earlier in the chat, like, could I get a free trial? Well, we have a free trial that you can set up in literally 5 minutes, and you're taking calls and you're seeing how everything interacts and all of that. So it can be a super fast setup. You just want to make sure you're thinking through all the other aspects of what it's going to mean to your business. We do have a new thing that's called the Service Operations Agent, which is one of the new agents we just debuted a couple of weeks ago, which is designed to help you get started even faster, right? So through a natural language interface, basically natural language describing what you want your contact center to do, responding to some questions. Behind the scenes, we're doing the configuration of the contact center for you, and then you can review it and see if it meets your needs. So there's a bunch of things we're trying to do to make it as painless and as quick as you can possibly do. But you also want to just make sure you're not doing things that are so fast you're going to disrupt your business.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think that's a great answer because I think that's where people get hung up. There's a lot of us who have seen this go before, not necessarily with Microsoft, but just with contact centers where deployments just take months and months, and it ends up becoming a slog from that perspective. And it's amazing what you guys have done here.
One of the things that I don't really like the phrase like for like. I get that a lot of times when I help our folks with RFPs or whatever. A customer wants a like for like contact center. I'm like, really? Do you really want to take the same thing that you've had for 20 years and exactly replace it with our thing? I mean, maybe consider new opportunities that AI represents and new things you can do that you weren't able to do with this same contact center platform you had for 20 years ago. So that's one of the things that sometimes slows things down is people say, well, I gotta have this exact, but the IVR needs to work this exact way. Does it really need to work that exact way? Or can you think about a different way of approaching self-service through voice?
You're awakening my voice-based PTSD for RFPs because it was the same thing, right? Oh, I had all of these features on my Nortel phone, and I need exactly those features in Teams, otherwise it doesn't. So, we have to rethink about it. In Microsoft, Marcus used this word yesterday. I hate this. There's a term that we're using, which I personally hate, but maybe it's the right term. But there's going to be human agents, which we call carbon-based agents for some reason, and then there's going to be AI agents. And so, when we start to think about a lot of the agent stuff is bubbling up, everybody's talking about it, but people don't really understand the capabilities yet as much, right? There's going to be, not only will there be reactive agents, so I call in and somebody on AI answers and then they get my stuff done, which I don't need to talk to somebody. And it gets done much faster, by the way. There's also going to be proactive agents, right? They're going to actually be reaching out and all of that is going to fundamentally change how service is done. It's going to be a lot better for the customers. It's going to be a lot better for who you're providing that service to. And the speed, agility, and of course, all of this should lead to an increase in quality. That's what we're aiming for.
Absolutely. I laugh at Taimoor. You said talk about those PTSDs of RFPs. Back in the day, I long said I could have made millions by just printing out stickers that said Microsoft and going and slapping it on somebody's call manager box or Nortel box or on their phones and saying done and just being done.
Right
but
on.
No, I think the key there is really truly trying to understand where are you coming from and what are you trying to achieve. I was talking to somebody yesterday about how we can pull data from these legacy systems and visualize it, because that's really the key, is understanding where you guys coming from, because now you can start to evaluate what are you doing within that, and then we can start thinking about how do we apply it to the new system, because there are multiple ways that you can solve that, and there are multiple ways we can improve that every time. Now, usually the problem that you end up with is the human problem, in that people don't like change. And so trying to convince them that they can do something better or more efficiently can become very problematic, because they've just done it for so long. They've got so much muscle memory from that standpoint. So as we kind of talk about that deployment effort, and we're talking about how do we get this deployed, maybe one of the questions just at a high level is, how do we license Dynamics 365 Contact Center? Most of us probably understand how we license Teams, etc. How do we license that?
Yeah, licensing is my favorite topic. I really love talking about licensing. So it's pretty straightforward actually. Dynamics is based on a per user per month license at the core, right? So there's a certain per user per month you pay for the core Dynamics license. Now, on top of that are some variable charges, not the least of which would be variable charges related to telephony. If you decide to use Microsoft calling plans, there's obviously going to be Teams licenses required as well. And the other new variable component that you'll see a lot is Copilot credits, basically for all the generative AI and all the new agentic AI capabilities that we built into the product. A lot of those end up consuming Copilot credits. So you need to have a Copilot credit, either pay-as-you-go plan or a number of message packs you have in place. One of the cool things about the Dynamics 365 customer service premium product, which includes the contact center, the top of the line thing on the customer service stack, is it includes 1,000 Copilot credits per user per month pooled at the tenant level. So it's a way of getting you started and at least trying to experiment with some of these AI features. We still recommend you get some Copilot credit plans in case you start to hit the end of your allotted 1,000 credits per user per month. But it's a fairly straightforward thing. I won't bore you with like pointing you to the 65-page Dynamics licensing guide, which you're happy to read if you have insomnia and you want to go to sleep. That's a good thing to do. But there's just a few sections in there that you need to look at related to contact center and customer service. You don't have to look at the whole thing.
Right. Yeah, no, I think that's good. Oh, go ahead, Taimoor.
No, go for it.
I was just going to say that core piece is where I think most people kind of like, because everybody understands, like, whether if I'm on Teams today and I'm adding Copilot, like there's stacking of different features that we need, but that core functionality, just to say, hey, I want to be able to take that call, like having that core license, that's what's the key component there. But I think that was really kind of what I wanted to try to bring out of it. Taimoor, did you have anything else you wanted to add in on that?
No, I was just going to say, like, in summary, obviously there's the Dynamics piece of the license, which, you license the agents, right, for a contact center, and of course all the whatever the core licenses for the service. You also need, if you're going to bring the voice channel in, you need the Teams telephony license, the Teams phone license to bring that telephony in. And then on top of that, all the AI stuff, the proactive agents, the agents that we talked about, those are sort of on consumption. So we have calculators online where you can go in and estimate to say, hey, I'm going to have this many calls for this many minutes, and we feel like this is the scenario, and then you can build that and estimate what that cost would be per agent in order to deploy it, right? But that's sort of on the top from a consumption perspective, and that's all AI, right? If you go to, if you're on your personal side, if you download Claude and you start using it and you hammer it for all the financial data in the whole world, you're going to run out of credits at some point, right? So that's kind of where sort of the AI piece is, where it does depend on your usage. And especially what kind of things you connect it to, right? If you're doing sort of voice-based authentication on particular customers, you're probably using up more credits in that scenario. So there is a whole wide variety of things that you could potentially do with these agents and what you could connect them with to, right?
Yeah, I actually, I do want to address pull this question that Tom just dropped in to the chat, just because I think it's really valuable here and needs to be surfaced a little bit more than just in the chat. So he asked, so do I need a Teams phone license for every Dynamics 365 contact center agent, even if they don't have their own DDI? And I think, Taimoor, you can answer this. There's a key thing in here. So I'll let you go ahead and answer that.
Yes, that's correct. So you're going to be using Teams phone extensibility to bring in direct routing operator connect numbers. So you will be needing, for every agent that is going to be requiring to take those phone calls, you will be requiring a Teams phone license for that agent. Now, there could be some agents that are chat-only agents or other modalities, they don't need it. But if an agent that requires voice channel, yes.
Yeah, that was the key, was that if they required the voice channel, that was the component that I saw missing from his question. So I wanted to make sure you got a chance to answer that live. So from that standpoint, so we've got 5 or 10 minutes here left in our allotted time with this. So I kind of want to take a moment to shift, because guys, you guys dropped some big announcements back on April 27th of the next wave of features. And so I'd love to highlight some of those, because I think this is really going to start to bring voice more and more front and center for the solution. So with that, I don't know who wants to jump in and just kind of maybe give a little bit of highlights of the agents, the voice, the real-time voice agents and everything. Marcus, maybe you take a stab at this.
Yeah, I'll get started then.
Before Marcus gets started, I did put the link in the chat window so you can follow along if you want. But yeah, Marcus, go.
Yeah, feel free to scroll up by Taimoor. Thank you for putting that link in there. So we announced this was a couple weeks ago, the whole new kind of agentic era of our contact center, basically the whole new, 3 new contact center agents, if you will, the AI agents. The first one is the customer assist agent. So think about that as the agent that's going to handle most of your customer self-service activities, including the new real-time voice agents. So it's regardless of channel, right? It could be a voice agent doing a voice self-service activity. It could be a chat agent doing a chatbot kind of thing, right? So these old IVRs and these old chatbots have kind of sort of given way to the new AI agents that are doing either voice service or textual based service through SMS or web chat. So that's the first agent, is the customer assist agent. The second one is the new quality assurance agent. So as you think about all these interactions that your customers are having with your organization, they could be interacting through AI agents, that could be interacting with human customer service reps, or combination of both. What you want to do is make sure that you're still maintaining and hopefully improving the quality of all of those conversations and all of that activity. So that's the new quality assurance agent. It kind of evolved from our quality evaluation agent that we had before. And it's able to do things like real-time evaluation of those and even real-time coaching of a human service rep. Like if I'm being a service rep and I'm not being super empathetic, or maybe I'm starting to inject things that are non sequiturs from the actual support situation that I'm dealing with, the AI agent can kind of coach me and get me back on track, so to speak. So that's the second big agent, quality assurance agent. And the third one, I kind of touched on this a little bit ago, is the service operation agent. That's the one to help you get started and help you basically not only implement, but also administrate your contact center environment that much more quickly. So those are kind of the big 3. One that's customer facing, one that's more sort of internally facing to help assure quality within the organization, and another one that's more kind of admin and managerial focused on the service operation agent.
Yeah, and I think those are the 3 pre-built. Like these are just out of the box now, right? But you guys also announced the real-time voice agents as well, so people can go build their own now too, correct?
Correct. That's one of the ways of doing a customer assist agent is using real-time voice agents, right? Which are phenomenal. I mean, it sounds like you're just talking to a human, right? It has the same degree of empathetic responses. The conversation flows naturally. One of the coolest demos you'll ever see is when all of a sudden you decide to change your language. I don't speak very many languages other than English well, and some people say I don't even speak that well. But as you start to shift, like if all of a sudden I go into Spanish or I go into French, all the real-time voice agent just adapts with that and starts flowing right along with the conversation in the new language. It's really, really phenomenal.
Absolutely. So my question is out of the new features that just dropped, what are you guys most excited about?
Taimoor, do you want to go first?
I don't know if you're asking me to pick a favorite. I do like customer assist agent just because, I think that when you start to think about all the future possibilities in terms of the real-time translation is amazing, right? But if you start to think about us being able to sort of check on the sentiment of the particular call and how that's going and just add more insight and data into, previously when you were actually doing case notes, right? You would depend on, okay, somebody hangs up the call, they take 5 minutes to wrap up, and they put case notes in to say, hey, customer was really frustrated, or customer is super happy with the support. Now we actually have this idea that we can do analysis on sentiment of what that call was looking like, and also then to try to think about, okay, I need to escalate to an agent, and then this agent is actually, or a human agent, this agent is sort of helping that process through. We've all been frustrated on customer service calls, all of us, right? And so the idea that we can actually front end this with something that helps relieve some of that frustration is really exciting to me. Because I see that both from a technologist standpoint and somebody who supports the product, but also as an end user, right? I mean, I would love for that to be a reality very soon.
Marcus, I'll let you have the last word on favorites here.
Yeah, Taimoor's right. It's like picking your favorite, child if you have children or anything like that. It's like you can't really do that so much, but I do like that. What Taimoor said, it's about how do you make the customer self-service experience that much better through things like the customer assist agent, because we've all experienced the bad part of that. So I think that's where we can really up-level things. Plus, I'll put a plug in, even though I said at the very beginning, like we had the product that sort of grew up together, customer service plus the omni-channel add-ins, and now we've had them available separately. I do love the fact that we're still focused on how they work better together. So if you do decide, all right, it's time to have a full-blown CRM replacement and a contact center replacement. I mean, we're focused on making sure those two things do still work really, really seamlessly together, and you get the best of both worlds. Independently deployable, independent, very composable, all that for sure. But I'm really excited about what we can do when we bring the two products together.
Well, I know we're at time, and I will kind of help us end here by just saying, I think one of the things that I'm seeing out there, and Taimoor, you've said the fact that we've all had bad experiences. I'm consistently seeing how companies are leveling up their customer support and their and everything. I actually had a pleasant experience with Microsoft yesterday. Had to call in because was purchasing some gifts for CommsMe Next winners, and credit card got stopped as it should for from that perspective. And it was easy to get through, easy to get to, and everything like that. So I love the fact that Dynamics 365 Contact Center is one of those solutions that's helping organizations and customers level up their game when it comes to that support. So I think with that, we can just go ahead and wrap up. I don't think I saw any questions that we didn't get answered in there. Taimoor, you were doing great jumping in, and appreciate that. So if folks have any chat, feel free to just drop things in and we'll try to get things answered. But with that, thank you, gentlemen, so much for your time today. Thank you for enlightening us on so many things around Dynamics 365 Contact Center.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Adam.